Let's get a sense of what all these trade talks and the fact that US data has been fairly strong up until now, up until the jobs report at least. What has that meant for flows? Well, we have Cameron Brandt, Director of Research at EPFR Global, joining in. Cameron, great to have you on. That's the first question, really, right? Because up until the jobs report, most numbers were looking really good. Inflation was behaving itself. So in the last 2-3 odd weeks, what have you observed? Is a lot of money moving out of US assets? And if yes, and where is it going?
The short answer is not a lot is moving out, but not a lot is moving in either. It's been fairly flat over the past couple of weeks. We did see a definite pickup in flows to US equity funds when the two trade deals with the EU and Japan, the framework deals were announced with a sort of 15% reference rate. For India, with the tariff question still unresolved and indeed heating up, it's been a slightly bumpy run over the past 2 weeks for flows there. I checked the daily flows just before I joined you, and it was another day of outflow. So the tariff ups and downs at the moment are helping the broader picture, but specifically hurting India.
Cameron, hi, morning. Reema here. Could you give us the exact numbers for India in terms of flows or the outflows that we're seeing? Since when is it happening? Has it accelerated? And also the overall global funds picture, because I believe we've seen net redemption for equity funds of about $2.6 billion for the week ended 3rd of August.
So let's see. For India, it sort of started around July 28th. Not spectacular outflows, but from dedicated India funds have been running 70 to 200 million a day. 200 has been about the worst. The broader picture really hasn't been as bad. I'm not quite sure where that negative 2.6 billion number came from. The most recent week that we had, which was up to the end of July, was actually pretty solid inflow overall. And there's been strong appetite for diversified global equity funds. They're in the midst of a nearly 3-month inflow streak. In recent weeks, have been seeing $5, $6, $7 billion come in each week. So people haven't given up on the equity side, though. They're fairly quick to react when the weather changes.
Hi, Cameron. Good to see you, Ben. After a few months, actually, the Indian markets did see some outflows in the month of July. That said, is it an emerging market-specific problem? Or are you seeing, India getting the harder end of the stick? Are you seeing other emerging markets get their chunk? That's the question.
So it's not a case really of rotating away from India to other markets. Though that said, Korea would be the exception. There seems to be some real enthusiasm for Korea at the moment. But dedicated China funds, dedicated Taiwan funds have seen fairly heavier outflows than those dedicated to India over a longer period. Fund manager sentiment remains fairly solid. It's corrected from recent highs, but it's still historically at a good level, which is good for India. As it's been diversified funds, the global emerging markets, GEM funds, which have started to see inflows really pick up.
Finally, Cameron, before we let you go, now, what's the chatter you hear around? Now a lot of these tariffs are reality at 15% with most trading partners. Okay, India's 25%. But what's the sense that you get? And especially the firings, right? He fired the lady who was running the Office of Statistics.
Yes.
Now we don't know what's happening with the Fed. So, is overall the mood still positive on U.S. equities?
That's a good question. The answer is that we're still seeing a fair amount of money come into funds dedicated to U.S. equities. But we are noticing that the managers of funds that have a choice have definitely been trimming their exposure without a wholesale retreat. But there's no doubt when you look at global fund allocations that the managers there are taking a few steps back.
Sure. Okay. All right, Cameron, we'll leave it on that note. Thank you very much for joining in and giving a sense of where the money seems to be moving. It's not really moving to India, but we'll see. We'll see how things shape up. Thank you for joining in.